Just waiting for her
Yeah.
to say something. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever the hell you guys are located. My name is Al Ditton. I'm with Underground Noise Webzine. This is Webisode number 44. Please hit that subscribe button, like it, share it, comment, share it with your friends. I would really appreciate it. Strap yourselves in today, guys, because I'm here with Robert Granath from the band called Mefisto. And if you guys need to smoke a bowl, drink a beer, drink a soda, smoke a cigarette, whatever you might have as your vice, go for it. Robert, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing fine. It's 9 o'clock in the evening here.
It's 3 o'clock here where I'm at.
Yeah.
The first question I'd like to ask you, Robert, who are your musical influences?
Oh, okay. I'm going to try to make this easy because it's not an easy question. But growing up in the 70s, of course, it was Kiss. That's what almost everybody was into back then. And then the heavy metal, the British wave of heavy metal arrived, and that took over. So early 80s, metal from early 80s is my musical influences.
That's very cool. Now remind us what you do in the band again.
I'm trying to sing. I'm growling. I'm sometimes the drummer. I used to be the drummer in the original version, but now I took over the microphone on the reunion last 3 albums. Yeah.
That's very cool. How would you compare your album Phosphorus to previous albums? Would you say it's better musically, better production?
Yeah, it is. It's definitely better production. Musically, it was a new experience. I brought in one extra guitar player, Chuck Moll from Dark Funeral. Joined the band. A new drummer called Chris from he's playing in a band called Leak, Swedish death metal band, and Witchery, if you heard of them. And then Alex on bass. He's playing with Nagelfar also at the moment. He used to play with Necrophobic. And then it's me and Morgan that writes most of the songs, or we create the riffs and we put the songs together. This time we did it a bit different because during the recording progress, this is 2 years ago, this was like in the middle of the pandemic. So the recording was a bit like from time to time when people were not sick and we were allowed to go there. So what I did is that I gave everybody the freedom to do almost whatever they wanted with our songs. And in the end of the recording, we brought in a guy called Carl, and he's an organist. And I wanted to try something new. So he put on Rhodes on all songs, Rhodes harmonies, and he plays the theremin. Very strange instrument, difficult instrument to handle. And it turned out completely different than I was expecting from the beginning. And in my way, in my mind, this is like the way we sound today. This is our sound. I can't imagine making a next album without, for example, the Rhodes and the theremin on. It brings atmospheric Very cool sound, completely different to what you can hear today. Not many bands playing our kind of metal with this old 70s deep purple roads backing it. Youngers, so to say. You can hear some death, you can hear some thrash, you can hear some old school heavy metal, you can hear some hard rock from the 70s. You can probably hear some black metal there also because we have Chuck Moll in the band. so it's a mixture of a lot of things.
That's really cool. Now, what was that instrument that you named again? Not the organ, but the other one?
It's called a theremin. It's
Okay.
like an organ. You know a band called Hawkwind?
Who?
From back in the days, Hawkwind.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That instrument, they use it.
Oh, okay. I was always trying to figure out what that was called because I was never familiar with what it was.
I didn't know. I'd never heard of that instrument until he told me and showed me how it works, and I was like, "This is super cool. This is like old school." Yeah.
Very old.
So it's a bit of like a Hawkwind feeling over it, also, actually.
Absolutely. Give a shout out there to Hawkwind. Been a while since we've heard some music from you guys. Get back together.
Yeah.
When it comes to Swedish metal bands, I'm familiar with the bands called Aeon, Grave, Mad Architect, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Band called Just Lizzie, which is a Thin Lizzy tribute cover band, which is out of Gothenburg, Sweden. Have you ever heard any of those bands?
No. Yeah, the first one you mentioned, of course, I heard.
Yeah.
When I started Mefisto, this is way back. This is 1984, end of 84, early 85. There was only like one band that I knew about in Sweden that was kind of extreme. That was Bathory, and Quordon, or Ace as we called him then, lived like 10 minutes from me, but he was like 4 or 5 years older than us. And when you're 16 and he's 20, like, that's a big difference. He can drink beer at a pub, we couldn't. But after that, when we stopped playing 87 because we couldn't get a record deal, it was really hard, and we got tired of this scene, then everybody came up. Then Entomb came out. This was after Nihilist, Grave, all those bands came, and they did it quite well.
Are there any bands that you've always wanted to share the stage with?
Yeah, I mean, I probably share the stage with anybody that want to share a stage with us if the timing is right. But I wouldn't say that like it's this band or that band. I mean, musically, it must be like something that we can compare with a bit, but it hasn't been, because if you're like into death metal and only death metal, you're probably not gonna like Mefisto. But if you're like open-minded and you like death metal, but you also like heavy metal or something like that, and the mixture of that, and then I think we are the band that you need to see.
Cool, very cool. How would you compare the music nowadays compared to when it first started? Would you say it's gotten better over the years, or it's gotten weirder?
Let me put it this way. I'm pretty sure it's better, and people are better musicians overall. Not, of course, there are great musicians from back in the days, but there are a lot more now. But I guess it was, I wouldn't say it was easier back then, but the competition today it's very hard to I mean, to release an album today disappears if you don't have any backup. And with Spotify and everything, it's like Netflix. When you don't know what you're gonna do, you're gonna watch a show, and then you start looking what kind of movie I want to see, and then it ends up I'm not watching anybody. It was too many to choose between. And a little bit is the same now with music. There's so much music out there that it's hard to choose. Back in the days, you had to buy an album, and you had to listen to the whole album. And I think that was better than it is today. It's too easy today to. It's also easy to get lost in the jungle of everything out there when it comes to music and algorithm and everything that try to choose for you. You listen to one song, and if it's not good in 30 seconds, you skip that song. You go for the next one, and so on and so on. Was that an okay answer?
Yeah, that's a good answer. What would you say is your favorite thing about being a musician? I play guitar myself and do vocals and write lyrics in my project.
I think the creative phase, writing. From writing the songs, put the riffs together, the harmonies, the bridge, the chorus, to the finished product. And then it feels quite empty, because then you're done. For example, Phosphorus, our latest album, that was last summer, a year ago. It was there. So it's been quite 12 months since we finished the recording, mixing and mastering. And because of a lot of different reasons, it didn't came out until now. So for me, I'm already like in the next step. And this is the creative phase that I think it's what I like about being a musician. Because we're not a touring band. We're still we're not a big band, but we're too old to go on tour. I'm 52. I mean, and wouldn't say too old, but let me put it this way. It takes, going on tour takes a lot of your time. And also having put a band together with members of Dark Funeral, Witchery, Nagelfar, Necrophobic, they're always on tour. So it's quite hard for us to be a touring band, but what we said is like we might do a handful of shows every year on festivals if they want us. But it's hard when those other guys in the bands are in touring bands. So that's the tricky thing for us to get together. That's also why it's hard for us to rehearsal together too much. I mean, and it's easier for us to work like me and Morgan, the guitar player. I mean, we write the songs, and then everybody else comes afterwards and put their things on, and that can completely change a song actually. Especially now when we have this fantastic drummer. I had like made a mid-tempo song, but this time we said, I'm not going to give him a demo when I'm doing the drumming. I'm going to give him a demo muting the drums, and I want him to do exactly what he wants to do. And that wasn't that popular for his side. He wanted to hear what I played. I said, no, you're not going to hear what I play. You have the riffs, You do whatever you want. And it turned out great.
That's very awesome.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to playing guitar, how often would you suggest somebody change their guitar strings?
I don't know. I don't play guitar.
Okay.
I cannot play a chord. I'm a drummer.
Okay. Well, how often would you change your drum heads? How about that?
That's the drum heads not that often, but the sticks, yeah. The drum heads, of course, the snare drums need sometimes to, maybe you beat it too hard or something, but I'm an expert at breaking sticks, drumsticks. Now I'm taking a Swedish snus, tobacco. Yeah.
That's all right.
As we speak.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Do you have a career outside of music?
Sorry?
Do you have
Again?
a job outside of music? Like, do you do anything other
Yeah,
than music?
Yeah, this is just a hobby. I have a job. Everybody, I guess everybody today have a job outside music, unless you're Metallica.
Yeah, unless you're Metallica, laughing your way to the bank, just like Cannibal Corpse, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of bands out there that, you know, right there on the breach of death metal, like Creator, Bathory, Possessed, Cannibal Corpse, Suffocation, stuff like that.
Yeah,
I'm sure you're familiar with those guys.
yeah, of course.
Now, if you could name an album that had been a game changer for you, like say for an example, it was like a death metal album that made you change your mind about certain elements in music, what album would it be?
There are a few actually, but I must say, I like dark music, like, you know, I also like Typo Negative and that kind of music. And you can probably hear some of that also in Mefisto. I would say one album that really stood out and made me a bit like, what the fuck? This is really heavy. And then it's not a death metal album. It's actually the first time I heard Alice in Chains' Dirt album. It was so dark and heavy, but they didn't play fast or nothing like that, because then I would say Entomb, if I need to, the Wolverine Blues album with the HM2 sound, the Stockholm sound, the tractor guitars. That's also like a game changer for me. But I would say Alice in Chains.
There is an excellent
They
album.
had something, especially excellent album, dark lyrics. I mean, it's all about drugs and heroin, and the vocal harmonies and everything on that is like, it's I think it's really evil in a way, if you know what I mean.
Oh, absolutely. I remember the first time I heard that album, I was like, wow, never heard Alice in Chains sound like this before, because I heard Facelift and I heard Dirt. I'm like, wow, they really changed it up a lot.
Yeah, they became metal or something. I mean, the first album was great too, but this was so dark and heavy, and it was like, wow, I need to get this album.
Yeah, it still stands as a solid album nowadays. I still jam on it.
Yeah, me too.
Definitely one of my favorites.
Good.
Well, Robert, my last question for you is, do you have any last words for Underground Noise Webzine?
Yeah, please check us out. You need to hear us. It's hard to get out there with all those great musicians and bands, but I think our album, of course, I'm talking for myself, and sometimes you start praising yourself and what you do, but a lot of people, other musicians that heard our album Phosphorus are like, this is a really good album because it doesn't sound like everything else out there. And I'm not saying that in a way that, I mean, I also like, you know, but the thing is that you cannot put us in a genre. And I think that's a good thing for us. And this was also like that when we did our demos that became quite popular back in the 80s, because we didn't sound like the other thrash death metal bands. We thought we were a thrash death metal band, but when I listen to it today, it's like, I'm not sure we were. And that's the same today. So it's like, it's very atmospheric, and it's very cool with the Rhodes and the theremin and the choirs and female voices. I'm proud of this album. I think it's our best album so far. So you need to check it out.
Absolutely. Well, I'd like to tell you today, Robert, thanks for a portion of your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks.
You got it, man. Thanks again.
Thank you. Bye.
Later. And you're welcome.